How's it going, everyone? It is currently 3:30 on the 21st of February 2026 in the UK, and this is your top 10 games for the Switch 1 and the Switch 2 as according to the Nintendo eShop charts. Starting with number 10 on the Switch 1 is EA Sports FC 26. I'm not an EA Sports guy, I'm not a football guy, although my home city's team did just win a match pretty handily against a team that was meant to be much better than them, so there's that. This is going to run you £27.99 if you do wish to buy it. That is number 10. At number 9 is Disney Dreamlight Valley at 30% off. It is currently £23.44. I played a little bit of this game back when it was on Game Pass, and back when I had Game Pass, it might still be on there for all I know. And it's a pretty fun game. It reminds me a lot of My Sims in just how, like, it's structured. But, yeah, if you're a big Disney fan and you like cozy life games, this is for you. I don't necessarily know whether it runs well or poorly on the Switch 1, but it's available. At number 8, we have Super Mario Party Jamboree at full price £49.99. I've never actually played a Mario Party. It's on like my wish list of... It's not my actual wish list on the Switch, but it is on like my wish list of things to do someday. And I hear that Jamboree is a good one. People seem to enjoy this game, and given that it's still number 8 on the Switch 1 charts after its release, I believe it released last year, yeah, I think that kind of bespeaks a well-received entry in the series. At number 7, we have Animal Crossing New Horizons at full price, $49.99. This got an update not too long ago, which, you know, it has like a Switch 2 edition and a Switch 2 upgrade, but it was mostly a free update for all consoles involved, and it adds like a hotel which you can customize for people who want to come and visit and stuff, whether you've got the Happy Home Designer DLC or not. I have spent a lot of time in this game, although not nearly as long as some other people have, for sure. I'm not surprised to see it's in the top 10. It's probably one of those games that always hovers around there, but maybe it's had a recent bump since, you know, it had this big giant 3.0 update and became part of common conversation again, you know? Maybe that's why. I don't know. If I'd been doing this show for longer, I would have a better understanding of just how often this thing is in the top 10, but, you know, I guess if we continue this onwards, we'll see. At number 6 for full price, £49.99, we have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which I have physically and have also spent a whole lot of time in. It's good to see that this game is still doing well, even after Mario Kart World. I actually wonder if Mario Kart World's release and success might have something to do with the popularity of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, although again, I would not be surprised to find out that this is like a constant mainstay within the top 10. But yeah, it's a solid entry in the series, and I can see people maybe going back to it if they want more of like a traditional track-based Mario Kart game instead of the slightly more open and dynamic Mario Kart World. At number 5 is Nintendo Switch Sports, which actually surprises me, at full price by the way, £30.99. It actually surprises me a little bit because I never hear people talk about this game, and yet here it is at number 5. I suppose it's probably because it appeals to a casual audience as well as a more hardcore Switch audience. And this is a game I do have physically as well. I got this for my birthday a few years ago, and it's something that now that I think about it, I kind of want to play again. I know that they've added some sports over time as the game has existed. I think bowling is new, right? I think they added bowling. I don't think that was base game. I don't remember it being that way anyway. And so I should get in there. Hang on, I assume it's Switch 2 compatible. Yes, it is. Alright, cool. Maybe I'll do that. At number 4 is another game I own digitally. It's Pokemon Legends ZA. The Switch 1 edition is full price, £49.99. And yeah, I'm not surprised to see this at number 4, especially with all the talk that Pokemon is getting nowadays, although I assume it's been in the top 10 since it came out. The Switch 1 edition of this game is actually pretty good. I had concerns because I wasn't going to have a Switch 2 by the time that this game came out, so I got the Switch 1 version initially, and I was concerned because obviously Pokemon Scarlet and Violet famously ran terribly and never really got any updates to fix that unless you were willing to spend 400 quid on the Switch 2. But the Switch 1 version of this game, actually, I didn't really have any issues with it. It was a solid 30 frames a second. You could still tell it was a Switch 1 game. It was running on older hardware, but it didn't look bad. Aesthetically, it came together pretty nicely, and yeah, I would say if you're holding off on playing this game until you get a Switch 2 on the basis of you don't want a game that runs like Scarlet and Violet did, it might actually be worth your while to grab this, because you can always upgrade later for actually cheaper, technically slightly cheaper, I think, than it would be to just buy the Switch 2 version outright, which is always funny to me. At number 3, it's Minecraft, and I shouldn't be surprised. Minecraft was one of the first games I bought when I got my Switch all those years ago, and as far as I know, it remains consistently updated alongside all of the other versions. Also, Minecraft Super Mario is a thing, I suppose. I wonder how the performance is holding up nowadays, now that it's been continually updated. But yeah, I think the Super Mario stuff comes for free with the game, because I think I have it. But yeah, it's Minecraft. What else is there to say? You gotta have Minecraft, right? I did actually boot it up to see how it was on Switch 2, and it's Minecraft. Next time I feel like playing Minecraft, I'll probably be happy that I've got it here. At number 2 is a new entry. It's Pokemon Leaf Green version, the English version, at full price for £16.99. It is not yet available. It releases on the 27th of February, which is Pokemon Day, and it is available to pre-order. It is, from what we understand, basically just a port of a GBA title with potentially Pokemon Home integration coming later. That used to be in the description, but it has since been removed. I imagine it's just because it's a feature that they weren't willing to unveil yet, but who knows, maybe that means that there's more to this than we yet know about, and maybe more will be revealed on Pokemon Day. As it is, I'm happy to just get the port. There's been some grumbling about the price, and I can understand why, given that you can get greater value in retro collections of games from first-party publishers such as Capcom. By first-party publishers, I just mean like the people who originally made the game. I don't know why I had to specify that. But yeah, Capcom do these amazing Castlevania collections and stuff, and Mega Man collections. But I can't honestly say I'm surprised, and I've already spoken about this in a previous video. At number 1, you're not going to believe it, it's Pokemon Fire Red version, full price $16.99, planned release date 27th of the 2nd. This is the one I'm probably going to get, because I normally play the Leaf Green version, so it'd be nice to see some of the Fire Red Pokemon instead. I'm also going to go for Squirtle. I normally go for Bulbasaur, because Bulbasaur is the best boy of Gen 1 and of most of Pokemon. I do love me a Bulbasaur, and it's going to be difficult to pass him up, but I've played through it with Bulbasaur, and I've played through it for Charmander, so I think it's time to play through it for Squirtle, who is pretty dang cool. And in an alternate universe, probably not too many universes removed from this one, maybe he's my favourite Gen 1 Pokemon. But yeah, that's for Switch 1 eShop. Let's head on over to the Switch 2 and see what's charting over there. At number 10 for the Switch 2 on the eShop is Star Trek Voyager Across the Unknown Deluxe Edition. I don't know if the regular edition is actually available or not, or whether this is just the only package that's available for the Switch 2. Maybe it's just that the Switch 2 edition is the deluxe edition, I'm not sure. Either way, it's debuting at £39.50. It is available now, and this is actually a game I would like to learn more about. I'm someone who's still very much exploring Star Trek as a franchise. I watched through all of the original series a few years ago. I was making my way through The Next Generation, but it has since been taken off Netflix. But I was making my way through it very slowly. But as far as I understand, this is a game which aims to retell the story of Star Trek Voyager in a choose-your-own-adventure kind of a way, allowing you to make your own choices and affect the outcome of decisions made within the show, like change how things might have actually occurred. I'm very curious about that, but I think I would prefer to watch the show first. But yeah, it looks like there's also like management of like the actual, ship itself. So yeah, this is a very cool concept that I feel like you don't see very often, and I hope it succeeds because I would like to see more of this kind of thing. Like a Doctor Who kind of game like this would be incredible. At number 9 is Resident Evil Requiem Deluxe Edition, debuting at £74.99, releasing on the 27th of February on Pokemon Day, because I mean that's my favorite Pokemon right there. Look at him, or her. I don't actually know, but either way, yeah, it's Resident Evil. She doesn't look very happy. I'm not going to spend too long on this because at number 8, it's Resident Evil Requiem. I get the feeling people are excited about this game. This is the non-deluxe version, so it's debuting at £64.99. Again, obviously releasing on the 27th of the 2nd. This game has had a lot of trailers, and I haven't seen anyone complain about how many trailers it's had, which I think means I'm the only person who is not on the Resident Evil train. However, I know that my good friend Reese is a huge fan of the Resident Evil franchise, and I'm pretty well aware of the Resident Evil franchise purely through his enjoyment of it and through me watching him stream the game sometimes and stuff like that. We have fun over on Dimension Jam with that stuff. But yeah, Resident Evil Requiem is coming soon, and I'm sure a lot of people are very excited about that. The fact that it's coming to Switch 2 is a testament to the fact that the Switch 2 is indeed a console with, power that can run modern video games. You wouldn't believe it looking at some ports of games, like pretty old games that developers have been putting on here, but it's true. It's true. Speaking of which, at number 7, we've got Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition. Now, I don't know how this game's going to come out. First of all, it's available for pre-order, it's debuting at £52.99, and it's coming out on the 24th, which is, I remember what day it is today, it's 3 days away. And I am potentially interested in this for reasons we'll talk about in a minute, but I'm also dubious about it. I'm going to wait to see. I mean, first of all, I'm not paying £52.99 for it. Personally, for me, that seems a little steep for a game which came out over 10 years ago, hence why it's the anniversary edition. Of course, it's had some, I think it's had some graphical tweaks, a little like Skyrim Special Edition, right? But also it comes with, I think it's like 150, hang on, it'll say down here, yeah, 150 Creation Club items, which I think is a decent bit more than you get for the Skyrim Anniversary Edition. But yeah, Fallout 4, I've never properly played through this game. In fact, at this point, the Fallout that I've spent the most time in is probably Fallout 76. I have a thing with post-apocalyptic settings where I don't particularly enjoy them too much, but Fallout I'm starting to realize is a bit of an exception to that rule, and I'm steadily becoming more and more fascinated with the Fallout universe. You can thank the TV show for restoking my interest in that, and this is something that I hope comes out and is a nice 60 frames a second and looks nice and everything, and then goes on sale pretty deep, because I would like to play it here someday. At number 6 is Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition for the Nintendo Switch 2, currently 50% off at £29.99, and this is, I think it was a launch title for the Switch 2, and it was in much the same way that Skyrim was meant to showcase what the Switch 1 could do by, porting like a very well-beloved game that you wouldn't expect to see running on portable hardware to the new Nintendo Switch system. Cyberpunk, I think, is kind of meant to be the same idea. Obviously, like, maybe not intentionally because it's by different publishers and different developers, but all the same. That's kind of where Cyberpunk 2077 sits in my mind regarding the Switch 2. But yeah, by all accounts, this is a fantastic port that pulls off some technical wizardry to get it running on the Switch 2 with very little graphical downgrades, it seems like. I mean, looking at it, I can tell it's like a Switch version of the game, but I don't think it would put me off of playing it, So yeah, there's that. I'm sure that's in the top 10 pretty often as well. At number 5 is The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Anniversary Edition. We were just talking about Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition, and this game came out notoriously scuffed, right? This game came out, it was 30 frames a second, and it had horrible input lag. This was a few months ago when this came out. I even heard about this having not owned a Switch 2 at the time, and it was a bit embarrassing, to be honest. I'm a huge fan of Bethesda RPGs, yes, even those ones, and it's embarrassing to see games released in this state, especially when this is a game from 2011. Yes, it's been graphically zhuzhed up a little bit, but we don't want to be treated that way. However, about a month later, I want to say, it received a patch which improved the input latency at the expense of uncapping the frame rate, which just meant it hovered around 32-33 frames a second, and then sometimes it shot up to 60 frames a second in certain interfaces and environments like small buildings and stuff, which was a little bit weird. But now it has had a proper update and has a hard-capped 30 FPS quality mode and a 60 FPS performance mode, which sacrifices very little visually. The main thing is just that the draw distance for foliage is not, it's noticeable if you're looking for it. It's not as great, but it is now a version of the game worth picking up, and I think that is probably why it is so high in the top 10. I think people heard that it has been fixed and probably flocked to go and grab it. I think it is probably one of the best ways of playing Skyrim nowadays. It was an upgrade for me because I've never owned an anniversary edition of the game. I still only have special edition on PC, so I was able to justify getting it on sale because it comes with a community club items, and I was a little interested in doing a new playthrough with it's nothing crazy, it's no giant overhaul mods or anything like that, but it does kind of broaden the game a little bit in terms of items you're going to come across and the quests you can go and do and stuff like that. So I was very happy to pick this up. I've been enjoying playing it immensely. The only issue I would say about this version of the game is there's still no proper Creation Club access. I hear this is a Nintendo restriction and not a Bethesda one, but so if you want to access the Creation Club outside of what comes pre-packaged in this deal, unfortunately you're not going to be able to, which means no alternate start mod, which is annoying for someone who likes to create alternate characters. Other than that, solid version of the game. At number 4, we have Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, which rolls right off the tongue. This is a game I really want, actually. This is on my wish list, as you can see by the little heart there. It is £54.99, and if you already own it, you can buy the upgrade pack for £4.19. However, the upgrade pack is not what this entry is, it's the full game is what this entry is. So people are buying this game at full price to get it up to number 4. I think that is worth mentioning. But Xenoblade Chronicles X, for those of you who don't know, is, to the best of my understanding, and let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, a standalone spin-off title, which I don't even know if it takes place in the normal Xenoblade Chronicles timeline. I think it does, it just has no crossover or anything like that. But that also might be part of a mystery of the game, so don't let me know if it's a spoiler. But I think that's the way it's been pitched. And yeah, I really want to play this game. I have played some of Xenoblade Chronicles 1 Definitive Edition, which I am really hoping gets a Switch 2 patch, like this one did, because I want to keep playing that game. I want to get into this series more. I feel like this is a game for the Final Fantasy XIV MSQ enjoyers. You know, obviously it's a different video game, it's not an MMO, but it is very MMO coded, or at least Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is. I don't know about X. And the story, the narrative is like one of the main things about this game, and it kind of scratches that same itch, in my opinion, or at least one does. And I would really like X, just because it looks cool, and I did stall on 1, and I'm in that awkward spot between, wanting to continue it and wanting to start over, and I think X would be a nice way to sidestep that and play a Xenoblade Chronicles game without having to worry about replaying content or playing through content I half remember. So yeah, really want this. At number 3 is Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, Nintendo Switch 2 Edition. And no, you haven't accidentally scrubbed backwards on the video, because it is the upgrade pack. This is number 3 on the charts solely for the people who have bought the upgrade pack for the original Switch 1 version, which means that, slightly more people are upgrading a pre-existing game than are just buying it outright for the first time. But that also means that this is getting a lot of sales for being number 4, like the full game. And I think that's an interesting thing worth noting and thinking about. Like, it's clearly profitable to work on a Nintendo Switch 2 edition and put out an update for it. I think you could argue the same for Skyrim as well. Like, they fixed that game, and I don't know where it was on the charts previously, but it is now number 5. So, yeah. That's not too much else to say about that, but yeah, I just really want this game. At number 2 is a big un. It's Resident Evil Generation Pack for £84.99. Planned release date on the 27th of February 2026. You might be wondering, didn't we already do this? Wait, what is this? And that's because this combines Resident Evil's 7 Village and Requiem into one bundle. I believe you can still buy 7 and Village separately. Sorry, I got distracted there for a moment. But I but yeah, 7 and Village, I don't think they were on the Switch 2, so I think they're all releasing on the Switch 2 on the same day, which, you know, it turns out that this is actually a pretty decent deal for that, I think, if you're paying full price anyway. If you were already gonna pay full price for Resident Evil 7 and Village, then yeah, it's a pretty decent deal. I do want to get into the Resident Evil series someday, and I think I would start with 7, so that is worth noting. I don't know if I would get it on Switch 2 though. And finally, just to give you some tonal whiplash, it's Mario Tennis Fever, which, you know, is a new Mario Tennis game for £58.99, and it seems to be getting pretty well received, especially by people who really like the Mario Tennis series. I've always really wanted to pick up a Mario sports game like Mario Tennis or Mario Golf, but I've just never personally been able to justify the full price of it, and you know, unless I'm looking at getting the physical games, it's not very likely that these games are going to go on sale. But that's not a popular opinion, apparently, because this is #1 on the charts, and I'm happy to see it because I think the people who love this game really love this game. I've seen some people say it got reviewed a little bit unfairly. People say the campaign mode is lackluster, but apparently there's more single player options than people really talked about. If you want to hear more about that, Good Vibes Gaming did a video on it. I'm not the expert here on that, but yeah, I would love to play a Mario Tennis game sometime, and it's probably not going to stay at #1 for very long, I wouldn't imagine. But I think, you know, the fact that the Switch 2 is early in its life cycle as well, there aren't too many Switch 2 exclusive games. I think this is probably another reason why people are like, yeah, sure, I'll get Mario Tennis, why not? And I hope they have a good time with it. And that's gonna do it for the top 10. I was considering doing like the top 30 Switch 2 games, but then I noticed for Switch 1 games, there's a top 100, which I'm scrolling down now. And that would take too long. But yeah, so this is let's talk a little bit about this as like a video series. This is something that I'm experimenting with right now. The formula might change over time. Maybe I'll do more games, maybe I'll do less games, maybe I'll do more than just the Switch eShop, maybe I'll do like the top 10 Steam games or whatever. But I really wanted to experiment with a video that's more informative, but still has a opportunity for me to kind of like express some light opinions and talk about video games. My main concern about a series like this is that, firstly, I'm already doing 3 video series or 2 weekly video series a week, so I don't want to, like, you know, overburden myself, considering I also work a real job and all that stuff. But also, I don't know how much the charts are actually going to change week to week. But I just thought it might be interesting to take a look at the charts, and if you're wondering what the top 30 is, I'm scrolling through it now for the Switch 2. But yeah, I thought it might be fun to go through this. So if you've got any feedback on this, let me know. What would you like to see? Would you like to see me focus entirely on the Switch 2 and just stick to a top 30? Or maybe this should be a monthly series instead of a weekly series? Let me know. But in the meantime, if you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you'd like to see more. But please do let me know if you'd like to see more, because I think a series like this is really going to hinge on viewer interest. But that's all from me, and maybe I will see you next week.